The first question I ask them is, who do you want to be? I think it's really impossible. You should feel legitimate to have the ambition to become CEO, ministers, leaders of tomorrow.
Welcome to The Big Question, the series from Euronews where we tackle some of the biggest topics in business. Now, in this episode, we're chatting to Eloïc Peyrache, Dean of HEC Paris, Europe's leading business school. So, just to get us started, can you give us a little overview about what you can study at a business school or HEC Paris specifically?
So, of course, we study finance, marketing, operation management, strategy. But it goes well beyond this. Data science has become very important. All the sustainable issue, we have classes on planetary boundaries, and that's core class of the first semester when you study here, because it has to be part of your decisions tomorrow. Our job is to make sure that they have the right level of information to take the right decision and see the effect of the decisions. And how does that transform into business?
When you've seen the rise of social media and influencers and people kind of making their own way through life, do you think having a formal business education is still a good investment, a worthwhile investment?
That's a great question. You don't have to go through necessarily a business school, but it will make a difference. It could be a fast track. And, the more the world is complex, uncertain, the more leadership skills will be very important too. This is a lot about what we study here in the business school too, because I've talked to many graduates, and while they were studying, they thought, well, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how to build a bridge or a network or a plane, what am I capable of doing? And very quickly they realize that they have generally an ability to set the vision, the North Star, and they know how to connect the dots. And for that, they need to speak the languages. They will never be as good as a coder, as an engineer, but can they discuss? And the third, they make things happen. They get things done. And when you look at the Alumni Association, they are people working in the art industry, in NGO, in politics, in banking, in consulting. There are so many sectors in which they are very, they have very leadership position.
Would you say there are any roles that are impossible to do without kind of a degree in business or, an MBA or something like that?
No, I don't think so. The thing is how you do it. I think it's really impossible. And I'm saying the same to our students. I don't think there is anything impossible for you guys. And when you look again at what they do once they graduate, it's pretty crazy, this diversity.
Doing a master's degree or a higher education degree in general is something of a privilege. You need lots of time, lots of resources to do it, and especially with the rising cost of living or university fees. How do we make sure that the business workforce is as diverse as the society in which we live?
You're right. If you want to have a diverse work environment, you need to make sure that you have diversity in our campuses. There are several ways to look at it. Scholarships. We have a lot of scholarships. 2 years ago, we launched a new program called Imagine Fellows. Imagine Fellow, we offer scholarship to students coming from countries at war. When we launched it, I said, we need to recruit 2 girls from Afghanistan, great students from Kabul, and to come here. It was complicated. How do you identify them? Generally, we have thousands of applicants. We select them, then they will come. And when you talk about countries at war, it's different. You need to go and identify them and propose them to come, because they don't see that as a possibility. You need to work on ambition. You should feel legitimate to have the ambition to become CEO, ministers, leaders of tomorrow. And again, role models will play an important role. And whenever I talk to women, they say it's great to have young graduates coming on campus. It's great to have CEOs coming on campus. But could you invite women who are 35 years old, who just got a baby, who can tell us a little bit more about how they handle those kind of things? Because those are tricky moments in our professional lives.
So it feels like the world has changed a lot in recent years. It continues to change incredibly quickly. With COVID, obviously, it affected us in many, many ways, particularly work and how we do business and everything. Are there any new approaches in certain fields or a focus on strategies to help businesses survive future events like that? Is that something you teach now?
We'll work on crisis management. How do you react to this? How do you organize yourself? How do you rethink a lot of your business? When you think about COVID, one of the things was looking at black swan and what happens if they occur. When it comes to strategy, clearly the idea is that you would look at those black swan in a different way, because the probability that they might occur is maybe bigger than what we think. So how do you prepare for this? A lot of people talking about we are in a permanent crisis mode. So how do you set a strategy in a permanent crisis mode? Business plan for the 5 coming years, maybe they're irrelevant, maybe they are. So we talk about those things in the strategy class.
Do you think that's something that maybe AI can help with? There's a lot of discussion about how it's going to change the world and how there's lots of examples of it being used for good, used for bad. Is that another thing that you're now covering in your syllabus?
Yeah, I mean, AI is everywhere today. A very important question for us is that how is it going to change the way we teach? How is it going to change the way we assess? Let me give you one example. We had an experiment, a faculty gave the same exam to 2 groups of students. One was just the exam, and the second one was, that's the exam and that's what ChatGPT says about the answers. Interestingly, students on average and significantly, students who had some information from ChatGPT had lower grades. When you don't have any pre-statement on the question, then you really have to think about it, right? So we started testing internally, what's the right way to assess? Should we give access to let's say ChatGPT, or can it have negative effect? It turns out that it might, and it was not necessarily expected. So how is it going to transform our own business remains a very important question.
That brings me nicely to my final question. How does business education need to develop to stay ahead of the curve and relevant?
It's fascinating to see how fast things change today. The most important topic that was really important 3 years ago is a different topic a year later. And I think this has important consequences for us. First, lifelong learning is really important. You'll have to learn on a regular basis. Entrepreneurial mindset will be very important, because entrepreneurs are people who see a problem and say, I can complain about the problem or I can try to find a solution. Entrepreneurs will look for solutions. But at the same time, we need to look at this fast changing environment in a subtle manner, because we are not going to change our curriculum all the time and trying to follow the trend, right? We need to make sure that are we teaching things that are going to be important for our graduates in 10 years, 15 years, and help them think about an issue we didn't expect it to come. You need to make sure that research is important. Researchers are moving the frontiers of knowledge. Let me give you one story. We had a program on real estate many years ago, and we decided that the chair professor would be an economist, and he included option theory in the program. So there was a whole course on option theory. And talking to some of the sponsors of that chair at that time, they said, we never use option theory. Why do we have a class like this? And the question was straightforward. Well, it's precisely because you don't use it that we need to have such a class in the program. Because you should. In your business, there will be plenty of opportunities if you understand how option theory works. And that's precisely how you stay relevant, because you have researchers looking at a sector, a company, a trend, in a very different way compared to practitioners who bring a lot to the program, but in a different way. So how research focused you are gives you a lot about your ability to stay relevant.
Well, thank you very much, Eloïc Peyrache, Dean of HEC Paris. Thank you so much for joining us on The Big Question.
Thank you.